On this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie make the magic happen.
I think we graduated.
Testing some supercharged viral video trickery.
You ready to ruin Christmas dinner?
I can't wait.
Can a motorcycle make a tablecloth disappear?
Oh, here it comes.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Grant, and Tori
They're gonna fry my brain.
strain their brains for this pop culture myth.
Did you know most people use 10% of their brains?
But is this fraction a fact?
It's lighting up like a Christmas tree there.
That's so cool.
The team probed their lobes to find out.
This is real science.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Now I'm ready.
and Jamie Heineman. Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Carrie Byron,
What is that?
Tori Belleci,
Oh, we survived.
and Grant Imahara.
Start the car!
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
Check this out.
I hate to break it to you, but I've seen that before. It's a magic trick. It's not a myth.
This isn't, but there's a video that's been making the rounds on the web that is a twist to this trick that I think is right up our alley.
And that is?
In this clip, a table as long as a bus and set for a banquet has its tablecloth pulled out from under all its settings without disturbing any of them, using only the power of a super souped up motorcycle.
Ah, now you're talking.
Thought you'd like it.
In this viral video, rather than a quick flick of the wrist, it's a quick flick of the accelerator. And abracadabra, the tablecloth disappears, and a perfectly laid table remains. But is this turbocharged trick true, or just special effects sorcery?
So what's the plan?
Well, since this is in fact a trick that people do every day, I think we should spend some time unpacking the mechanics of exactly what makes it work.
Small scale test down on the floor of the shop?
Exactly. We want to figure out how to do this trick, how to pull a tablecloth and leave things on the table standing upright. But we don't just want to learn the trick, we want to learn the why of the trick. Gotta put some stuff on it first. We're gonna scale this up to a fairly impossible dimension, and I suspect that a lot of factors, object heaviness, cloth type, table type, all of these things might affect our success on that scale. Thus, in the small scale, we need to learn what factors are critical to making it work.
And with the table laid, Adam can focus on his hocus pocus.
Dude, are you ready?
I'm all ready.
Well, there's a vote of confidence. Tablecloth pull in 3, 2, 1. Oh,
That wasn't bad for a first try.
that was not bad for a first try. Okay, it's still pretty bad for a first try.
Not bad, but clearly there are some tricks to this trick. So next, it's time for Adam to button those down.
The table jumped all over the place. I think we can address that with a simple sandbag. 2, when I feel this, it's plywood. It's pretty rough. I think we can make it smoother before continuing, like this. Now we're ready.
With a smooth, stable table covered with a fresh cloth and a single bottle, there's one final thing Adam needs.
I want to know if this moves. I have an idea.
To monitor how much the wine moves, he makes a point.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Same thing.
Maybe it's the way I'm pulling.
But that point isn't required until eventually Adam gets the grip.
Hey! All right, now what did I do right?
Well, Newton's first law of inertia means that objects at rest stay at rest. But when the cloth is pulled, friction also acts on the objects. However, if the inertia is greater than the friction, the tablecloth is whipped free. But that's not the only reason the trick has started to work.
I think I've got something, which is the tablecloth has to end at the table. It can't be draping over. If it's draping over, too much noise is created and it wants to pull the bottle over. But when it's at the edge, it seems to leave the bottle standing. Now I want to play with some other fabrics.
Yep, the speed of the pull and position of the cloth are both important parameters. So next, will the type of fabric make a difference?
5/8 of an inch.
Using the high-speed camera and his pointer,
7/16.
Adam can assess just how much the bottle moves with a range of fabrics.
This one's no good. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's lovely, but it's no good for this trick. That right there, that's a 1/4 inch. That's the best one yet. I had assumed that a heavier satin fabric would actually be best for sliding underneath the objects on the table, when in fact, the lighter weight ones are outperforming everybody. Moreover, they're outperforming them when the shiny side is down rather than up. Who would have thought?
It turns out the lightweight satin has this category sewn up, making it the best-case scenario fabric for large scale. But there's one more parameter to test.
I find myself wondering if weight is a factor, and so I plan to remove some from this bottle.
In theory, the more mass an object has, the greater its inertia.
Don't worry, we only waste the cheapest wines.
So reducing the weight of the bottle could work against Adam.
Empty bottle, and my favorite fabric. 3, 2, 1.
But it doesn't. Because there's also a corresponding drop in the friction of the bottle on the tablecloth. And when you combine all the factors of the tablecloth tug,
3, 2, 1.
Wow,
Yeah,
that works.
I know! So what did we learn here? Well, we learned how to do the trick. I think we graduated. But we also learned some of the critical factors. One, most importantly, the tablecloth needs to be sheer, lightweight, and have no stretch in either dimension. 2, the tablecloth's placement is critical. It can't go over the edge of the table. It needs to be right up to it. And 3, the objects don't have to be very heavy. They actually can be quite light, and it still could work. And that tells me that this might actually work.
I think Adam has this stunt down, but it's one thing to do this by hand with a small table with just a couple things on it. It's another thing to do this with a motorcycle, and yet another thing to do this with a motorcycle and a really big table. We've got our work cut out for us.
next up, the MythBusters have a myth on the brain.
Okay, well, I hope you guys have your brains in gear.
Always do.
Good, because for this next myth, you're going to need them. We are testing a myth that is so prevalent that it's just taken for granted that it's fact. Humans only use 10% of their brain.
You hear that everywhere. It's like ingrained in our society.
Definitely, but that doesn't necessarily make it true.
This myth is so pop culture that it even made it to The Simpsons.
Joke if you will, but did you know most people use 10% of their brains? I am now one of them.
But are we really only using a fraction of our brains?
I think we need to come up with the biggest, most challenging brain test, one that will test every single area of the brain.
Well, let's utilize some sort of technology that can monitor brain activity and then maybe come up with like a quiz that could stimulate that activity.
Sounds good, but you know, I think we need some more info. So if you guys want to figure out how we can map the brain for a quiz, I'll find out more about the brain itself, its parts, and how they work.
Cool.
So before they start quizzing, they need a brain expert. And Grant has found just the man, Dr. Manley.
So if we were to go about testing what percentage of your brain you use, what sort of tests could you recommend?
There's a number of tests that one can do to look at brain activity or functional connectivity. One of the earliest ways that we determine to do this is with what's called an EEG, or an electroencephalogram. And this is where we measure the surface electrical activity on the brain. And when you do an EEG, you can see that all parts of the brain have some sort of activity.
I know the brain handles a lot of functions around the body, but What are the various parts, and what specifically do they do?
The brain is probably the most complicated organ in the human body, and as you can see here, the brain has many different parts and structures, which we break down typically into the frontal lobes, which are involved in executive functions such as planning and judgment. We have the temporal lobes here that are primarily involved in language here on the left side, and towards the medial part of it are involved in memory. The parietal lobes here help to integrate a lot of the sensory information. The occipital lobe, which is in the back, is how we process all of our visual information and things of that nature.
And that's important to remember for testing this myth. With different areas of the brain responsible for very different functions, they'll need a variety of tests to trigger every single part of Grant's brain, so the EEG can track its activity. Armed with this info, Grant heads to the studio where the brain games can begin.
To test the myth that we only use 10% of our brain, we have this amazing MythBusters game show set. Now, Grant's gonna be hooked up to an EEG and monitored by our specialist, Cynthia Curson.
Will this enhance my innate telepathic abilities? No.
I get to play the host today and present him with all of his challenges.
Challenges is an understatement. These tests were devised by Dr. Manley to strain every part of Grant's brain. So now, the first round of Brain Busters. Memory Mania. This tricky test will target his temporal lobe.
Grant, we're going to present you with 10 images of a person and an object. Then, we will repeat the images of the people, and you have to name the object that's associated with that person. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Adam Savage goes with
Orange.
1 right,
By recalling who goes with what,
Gun.
2 right.
Lion.
That's 3 right,
Grant's temporal lobe is triggered,
Tree.
4 right,
and the corresponding brain activity is recorded on the EEG.
Cloud.
6 right,
Wheel.
7 right.
With 1 test down and 1 perfect score, round number 2 is crazy calculation, which should be the ultimate challenge for Grant's parietal lobe.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Begin.
13.
To add extra difficulty, the numbers will spin and fade, while an audio track spits out others to distract Grant.
10.
You are correct. The answer is 10. Next question.
2.
You are correct.
Then the unthinkable happens. Grant gets a math question wrong.
6.
The answer is 7. You fail.
6.
But 1 wrong answer doesn't deter Grant,
5.
Correct.
and he nails the rest of the round.
2. 12. 6.
You are correct. You get 9 out of 10 and advance to the next round.
Grant's brain is certainly getting a workout, but is it a strain on more than 10% of his brain?
What?
The MythBusters are updating the traditional tablecloth tug because of this viral video.
Now, in the video, it looks like the location they're filming in is some kind of large, long military warehouse type building. Luckily, in San Francisco, we've got a few of those. This is the Festival Pavilion at Fort Mason. Originally built by the Army in 1915, it is the location where we filmed Bullet Drop versus Fire, and for our tablecloth poll, I think it's the perfect match for the video.
Not only is the warehouse a perfect match to the video, it's also got plenty of space for our Easy Rider. So, let the turbocharged trickery begin.
Let me tell you about the bike we're going to use. This is my personal sport bike. It's an 1125R DSB made by Eric Buell Racing. It weighs 390 pounds. It puts 150 horsepower to the rear wheel. It does 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds and the quarter mile in 9.8 seconds. It tops out about 180 miles an hour. If we can't pull this off, it won't be because the bike's not fast enough.
That's the supercharged bike, and now they need a supersized table.
Where do you get one of those? Well, I'm about to build it right here. When I'm done, we're gonna cover it with a tablecloth and 24 place settings, which should allow the Miss Manners approved 2 foot from guest to guest. Even though our guests are non-existent, we like to hold to Miss Manners.
And with Adam's 24-foot table almost finished,
Plastic wood grain, when nothing but the second best will do.
he then turns his attention to the tablecloth.
I want to be able to pull this tablecloth evenly, so I'm going to put a pipe at the end of it, just like we see in the video. But the fact that this seam is super parallel to the entire tablecloth is quite critical to an even pull across everything. I hope I've achieved it.
The final step is the table decoration. First with a cloth of lightweight satin, and on top of that, well,
This is one place setting. We need 23 more, which means we're going to need some help. That's what they're here for.
Adam's elves make quick work of the table laying, copying the video as closely as possible. And with the motorcycle hooked up, time for some predictions.
I'm of 2 minds about this thing. Part of me really wants to see it succeed. The other part is looking forward to the horror show of everything hitting the ground, especially on high speed. I can't tell which I want more.
We've set this whole thing up exactly like it was in the video. So if the video wasn't faked, when I take off, only the tablecloth is coming with me. Personally, nah, it's not gonna happen.
Well, with the table dressed for dinner and Jamie's need for speed, there's only one way to find out. Now for the final part of the game show made for your mind. Brain Busters. Grant's brain is in the hot seat
6.
to find out if he's using more than 10%.
And we're back for more Brain Buster Challenge. In this challenge, we will be stimulating the frontal lobe. Now, this part of the brain is used in planning, decision-making, risk-taking. So in this next test, Grant will be forced to make a decision in the face of risk.
Grant, right in your face is a 12-inch balloon. You will control its inflation by the button at your fingertips.
This is a risk and reward task.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Start to inflate.
The longer Grant inflates the balloon, the more points. However, if the balloon bursts, he'll get zilch.
Okay.
4.4.
4.4.
Inflate all the way.
My goodness. Okay.
9.3.
Wow. That was a crazy big balloon.
With his frontal lobe probed, the final challenge is flash frame.
So the next round, we are going to stimulate the occipital lobe. That is the lower back part of the brain. This is the one that helps you process visual information. Let's see how Grant does this round.
This test may look easy,
Hammock.
but Grant's occipital lobe must work hard to detect the differences.
Greenhouse. Asparagus. Mane on the zebra.
You got 4 out of 5 correct.
And for those of you playing at home, here's what Grant missed.
The clouds actually appear on the horizon.
Got it.
With that, this episode of Brain Busters is over.
So we have tested all 4 lobes of the brain. But now what we need to do is look at the EEG, crunch the data, and find out exactly how well his brain is firing.
So let's recap. We determined in small scale that it is in fact possible to remove a tablecloth under items sitting on a table without any trickery. It's just technique. The question is it possible to do it when your table has 24 place settings on it? That's what we're about to determine.
Yep, and here's a reminder of how it's supposed to look. But now, to find out if the MythBusters can pull this off.
It's all set up. You ready to ruin Christmas dinner?
I can't wait.
Uncle Jamie always does that. Get started. Monster tablecloth pull, just like the video. Go! Well, some stuff stayed on the table.
Abracadabra that, eh? Despite Jamie gunning the accelerator on the superbike, it wasn't enough to overcome the friction of 24 table settings.
Oops.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I guess so.
What a horror show.
I left some of them on the table.
That's exactly what I said. The glass is half full.
This trick worked exactly like it did in the small scale, at least for a couple of settings. The problem was the other 22 pretty much got destroyed. The thing is that these first two settings only had a couple of feet of cloth to deal with. Everything from here down had much more cloth that had to clear underneath it to do the job, and that meant that it all started to move, and a lot of it moved right onto the floor.
It's starting to look like the spectacular tablecloth strip of the video clip could be a lot more complicated than it seems.
Clearly, we got to do that again.
We got to clean up first.
Yeah, well, he who made the mess gets to clean it up. See you in a couple hours.
The MythBusters have only one thing on their mind. Do humans use only 10% of their brains? After a tense wait, Grant's brain power results are in.
So we can't wait to find out. How did Grant do through the challenges?
Well, I was happy to see that Grant did very well on his test. He compares pretty closely to normal, and all of the parts of the brain that we thought would be illuminated during the different tasks, for the most part, were.
In fact, for every test, Grant's brain activity is lit up on the EEG just where you'd expect.
We have activity right here in the temporal lobes. There was activity in the left parietal area while he was doing this math task. You can see here that we did pick up some activity in the occipital lobes in the deeper structures.
Grant's brain is working, but how much of it is engaged?
So Cynthia, what's the bottom line? Based on these tests, can you assign a percentage to the amount of my brain that I'm using?
Based on these results, we can see that the right parts of your brain were being activated during the certain tasks, but we can't really make a determination about the percentage of your brain that you were actually utilizing.
The results of the EEG tests showed us that we actually constructed these tests to excite the right parts of the brain, and in fact, they were excited in the way that we expected. Unfortunately, they were inconclusive in actually giving us a percentage that we could assign.
The EEG focuses on the surface activity of Grant's brain, so it can't provide a conclusive all-over percentage. And inconclusive just doesn't cut it for the MythBusters.
So we need another brain testing device.
I think I have just the thing. We should go to the MEG. Apparently it can give us the kind of brain mapping we're looking for.
Oh boy, I see more quizzing in our future.
Well, actually, Tori, more quizzing in your future as the team heads to UCSF Biomedical Imaging Lab, where they'll use an MEG to read Tori's mind.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Now, the magnetoencephalograph is much more comprehensive than the EEG. Any electrical current is going to produce a magnetic field. The MEG uses extremely sensitive superconducting sensors to measure the field that the brain's electrical current generates.
It's a sensitive machine that can detect even the tiniest brainwaves. And in the capable hands of the UCSF brainiacs,
You guys aren't gonna erase my memories, are you?
Don't worry.
Tori is carefully hooked up for testing.
Help me get out of here.
So we're gonna put this microphone up by your mouth so we can record what you're saying.
You're gonna leave me in here?
Bye.
Bye. Should we start at defrost and work our way up?
And now comes the hard part, a series of 4 tests to put Tori's brain to work and find out if he's using more than the mythical 10%.
All right, please start holding still.
Like the EEG, we're going to start by firing up the temporal lobe. Now, this is the one associated with memory and auditory stimulation.
Okay, Leighton, so how does this test work?
So I've trained Tori on these word pairs, and what he's going to do is he's going to hear one of the words, and he's going to speak back the word that he's been trained on that's associated with the first word.
Basket.
Tori.
Book.
Adam.
Coffee.
Grant.
He said my name. He recognizes us.
Paper.
Jamie.
So all these different numbers here are all the different channels all over his head, and they're all recording activity.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Tori completes test 1 with flying colors, and then it's on to the occipital lobe test with some familiar faces.
I feel like I'm in a Kubrick film right now.
Okay, Tori, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be looking at the screen, and there are going to be faces appearing on the screen.
Okay.
And the faces are either going to be ones that are familiar to you, like Carrie there. If you see a familiar one, you press the button with your right hand.
Okay.
If it's an unfamiliar face, one you've never seen before, like that person right there, you're going to press the left button.
Okay.
And that's it.
Hey, who's that guy? Now, the occipital test, it wasn't that hard, but it was designed to stimulate the part of my brain that visually recognizes things that I already know.
Yeah, I just saw him push a button there. Oh, that's cool.
Test number 3 is a simple math task to stimulate Tori's parietal lobe.
All right, so what's this test all about?
There's going to be a pair of numbers flashing on the screen, and the numbers can be either the same or different. And if the numbers are the same, he's going to press the left button. If they're different, he's going to press the right button.
As the numbers flash, Tori does his best to press the right buttons, but it seems the tension is getting to him inside the MEG.
Oh, try not to grit your teeth, please.
All right.
You can tell that?
Oh yeah, you can see the little squiggly lines.
Wow.
For the frontal lobe quiz, the team uses a test which seems like a simple enough combination of text and color.
What happens is a word appears on the screen, and the word is a color, either yellow or blue. And the color of the word itself can be either the same color as the word or a different color. And when the two are incongruent, it creates a cognitive conflict, and that really drives activity in the frontal lobe.
I like that one. That's cool.
It's cool, but deceptively difficult. And with all the tests complete, Tori's head is completely checked.
Hey, good job, man.
Who are you people? What year is it? All right, so tell me, am I using more than 10% of my brain?
We'll know in a couple of days. We'll have to crank on the data.
But preliminary results show that you're missing part of that frontal lobe where it tells you not to jump over red wagons with bicycles.
Can we wipe that memory from my brain? So I just came out of the MEG, and that was so cool. I mean, I'm laying there on this bed. I got wires taped to my face. They stick my head into this huge cylinder, and this MEG is so sensitive that it can detect which lobe is being activated by each test.
Now, watching over the shoulders of the technicians and seeing there's one graph where you see all of the electrodes and just what each one is reading. You can see for a certain amount of time, it's sort of a flat line, and then there's some stimulus comes up and they go whoosh, like this, you know, it's really cool to see that.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like out of some science fiction movie. But the coolest thing is, this is real. This is real science.
Real science that tells us exactly what's going on in Tori's brain.
We don't have all the data back in from all the tests yet, but I mean, right now, it's pretty obvious. We use way more than 10% of our brain. Knock on wood.
In this viral video, the motorcycle takes off and takes the tablecloth with it. But after one tragic magic trick, it's looking more like a mission improbable.
Well, that was just the horror show that I was looking for. And honestly, I'm not sure if this is going to work at all, but if it is, if there's any chance of it working, I see that there's two major problems that we've got to solve. One is there's a lot of weight on that tablecloth. I mean, one of the reasons I think the small, light, thin tablecloth works so well on the small scale is because it got out of the way. When you got heavy weight on it, it's harder for it to get out of the way. Second is that tablecloth has to start moving faster from the get-go. It needs more of a big jerk. I'm not talking about Jamie, I'm talking about some slack in the rope so he gets up to speed and then boink, pulls it out at speed. That's what we gotta do.
That's the plan. So first, Adam gets rid of that excess weight. And just like any diet, cutting out booze is a good start.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Then with the lighter table settings back in place, the next step is to give this trick enough rope.
Here we are, 200 feet.
200 feet of line should give us the big jerk that this friction versus inertia test depends on for success.
This right here is 200 feet of nylon line coiled so that it cannot get tangled. What will happen is, I will say, okay, Pulling the tablecloth out from under the table with 200 feet of line. Go! Jamie's gonna take off on his bike. This rope is going to spool out all 200 feet of it until he reaches the end where it's going to tug on this with about 50 to 60 miles per hour worth of force, whatever that is. And I gotta say, I don't think it's going to help.
And while Adam is skeptical of the full table strip, Jamie has a case of worst-case scenario-itis.
This time around, the rope is going to pull taut, the bike's going to stop, and I'm going to keep going straight into the wall.
Well, time to find out who will survive this tablecloth tug of war. The table settings or the Heinemann?
Go!
As Jamie throttles the throttle, the line unspools and...
That was so much closer than I thought it would be.
Once again, the magic doesn't happen. But this time around, there was a lot less destruction.
Clearly, we still need to do some work, but less than I thought.
You can see the difference between this run and the last run. Most of the dishes are still on the table, and not only that, they're not broken. What that tells me is that we're on the right track, but of course, we can do better.
Look at that!
It's a little sloppy, but it's a lot better than it was the last time.
I'd say 90% of what we had stayed on the table. I mean, it all got tipped over, but it stayed on the table. That's a lot closer than I thought we'd be.
Well, you know what that means?
What?
I just need to go faster.
I'm not sure if speed is the only fix, but definitely speed will help. How fast do you think we want to go?
100 miles an hour.
You're going to need like a quarter mile to get up to that speed.
Let's go find a quarter mile.
Okay.
Did you know most people use 10% of their brains?
According to The Simpsons, this is fact. But the MythBusters are putting that to the test.
Well, this has been terrific. Let's do it again sometime.
And Tori's MEG results are in.
We're back at UCSF to get the results for Tori's MEG. This is going to tell us if our myth is confirmed. It's a really big moment for us.
Yep, so it's over to the neurologist to reveal the final percentages.
So we've got the results from the MEG. How's the myth looking?
Very interesting. I think that there's an element of truth to this myth. If you look at a 100 millisecond time scale and you're doing one thing.
Basket.
Tori.
We see about 10% of the brain active.
But that's just 1/10 of a second. What's the percentage of the brain activity during the entire challenge?
We found that the total overall brain activation was about 35%.
35%.
So the myth is busted.
Totally busted.
So the essence of the myth, I really believe, is that you're only using 10% all the time. So for that, you're pretty much saying it's busted. But what's interesting is just that 1/10 of a second. There's a little bit of plausibility there. That's really cool.
Even individually, Tori's lobes were still firing at more than 10%. So the myth is busted. But that's given our brain busters a brain wave, and they can't leave it there.
MythBusters.
So after all of our tests, we have proven that we do use more than 10% of our brain. But now it's time to go deeper to find out exactly how much or how little of our brain we use. So we're here at UCSF to get an fMRI, a functional magnetic resonance image. This should be interesting.
The fMRI will get to the heart of Tori's brain and find out just how much and how little it's capable of.
So everyone's heard of an MRI, but today we're using a functional MRI, or fMRI. It's a little bit different process. Here's how it works. When your neurons are firing, that causes increased blood flow. Now, blood that has high oxygen content has a different electromagnetic signature than blood that has a low oxygen content. So, when your neurons are firing, the blood's flowing in that area, the fMRI picks that up as increased activity in a specific part of your brain.
Once again, Lab Rat Tori is ready for testing. But instead of quizzes, this time they're doing things slightly differently.
All right, engage.
You're such a nerd.
Newsflash. So the first test that Tori's going to take in the fMRI is going to be the bare minimum of activity. He's going to be at rest with his eyes closed.
Okay, Tori, what I need you to do is try to stay still and stay awake for the next 8 minutes. Here we go.
And that way we can see, when you're doing absolutely nothing, how much of your brain you're actually using.
That's insane.
So that's what he looks like as a zombie.
Even at rest, it seems that Tori's brain is still very active.
That's so cool.
And eventually, after 8 minutes, it's time for test 2.
We're going to try to have Tori fire up every lobe of the brain and the cerebellum all at once. Now, to do that, we're going to have him tell a story out loud. The story is going to involve trauma, recollection, order of events, all sorts of things that we can see all of the brain firing at once.
Okay, Tori, we're going to do the storytelling part of the experiment. We're going to begin.
So one day, we were out riding bikes.
Interestingly, Tori's traumatic story involves an unfortunate bike accident.
Got pretty scary.
He's lighting up like a Christmas tree there.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, as he's telling the story, there's activity in a lot of brain regions. So you can see these parts of the frontal lobe in either hemisphere active as he's telling the story. Now he's taking a break and you can see the activity go down. And when he hears himself tell the story, you can see activity in the auditory cortex and the temporal lobe light up.
That's great.
And with Tori's story over, he's ejected from the test tube.
The interesting thing about our test today is that at rest, your brain is using so much more than I actually expected.
I feel like a lab rat. Yeah.
I mean, I knew that when you were going to tell a traumatic story or you're doing something interesting that you're going to have a lot of things firing. But when you're just sitting there doing nothing, you're already looking like you're using more than 10%.
When magic works, it makes you believe the impossible is possible. But so far, this tablecloth takeoff looks like it could be just smoke and mirrors. So the MythBusters have come to Alameda to find out if they can pull this one off at 100 miles per hour.
Show off! Tablecloth pull 101. We tried it in scale in the shop and learned that you need a thin tablecloth with no hem and a good sharp pull. So then we went into a warehouse and we tried replicating exactly what we saw in the video, and this happened. Then we thought, what if we pulled the tablecloth much faster? So we added 200 foot of rope between the motorcycle and the tablecloth. Jamie got up to about 50 miles an hour, and this happened. But we wanted to know what it would take to do it for reals. So the table is set. Jamie is warming up the motorcycle, and in a few minutes, we're gonna try the world's biggest tablecloth pull.
But before they do that, first they need to find out just how long it will take Jamie to get up to speed on his bike.
Woo! Wah! 91. 97, ladies and gentlemen. 200 yards will be the length of the rope we attached between Jamie's motorcycle and her tablecloth. It will be leaving the table at 100 miles an hour, or something else catastrophic will happen.
And to prevent China carnage, increasing the speed is not the only change they're making today.
We've considered that one of the biggest stresses on the tablecloth for the success of this effect is the overall weight of everything on this table, and thus we have reduced it by at least half. We've replaced all the cast aluminum flower pots and champagne buckets with actually stainless steel ones with smoother bottoms. We've replaced all the ceramic plateware with plastic plateware. We're hoping that that lighter weight will actually make this much more possible.
Remember, this trick is a battle between inertia and friction. So reducing the weight of the table settings means the friction should decrease. That's the idea, but Jamie, for one, is still skeptical that this will work even at 100 miles per hour.
When I take up on this bike, 600 feet of line is going to pay out, and it's going to yank the tablecloth off the table at 100 miles an hour. Hopefully all the dishes will remain in place and intact. But what really is going to happen is hard to say. 100 miles an hour is awfully quick, but If the dishes just move a little bit and they stay upright, we're golden.
I still don't think it's going to work. Even with all this, I don't think it's going to work. But again, I'm usually wrong, so you should probably bet the opposite.
Well, with the preparations complete, it's the moment of truth.
You ready to do this?
Yep.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. Possibly the world's biggest tablecloth pull in 3, 2, 1, go! Was the best attempt so far. And still we have destruction. But hey, I was right.
It's the closest they've come to success, with half the table intact. But the high speed reveals that there was a hitch.
We can tell by looking at the high speed that a rip occurred on the front corner of the table because the tablecloth is being pulled down slightly, and the sharp square corner eventually made a little bit of a start of a rip, and then it was all over. We can fix that.
It's a simple fix, and while Jamie takes the edge off, Adam whips up another tablecloth. And once the repairs are finished, the table is set for take 2.
All right, tablecloth pull with 600 feet of rope at 100 miles per hour. Mr. Heineman, go!
Jamie gets up to 100 miles per hour. The line pulls and...
Oh, here it comes. Oh! 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 I'm starting to think this isn't possible. Actually, I'm halfway through thinking this isn't possible. I'm almost finished thinking that this isn't possible.
Yep, because once again, the tablecloth was the weak link and ripped in half.
On the last round, everything was going great, except for the tablecloth ripped right in the middle. So we're going back and yet again tweaking things. Hopefully it'll work this time.
A few tweaks, a brand new tablecloth, and another perfectly laid table later, and they're ready for attempt number 3.
Hope it works. Tablecloth pull, 600 feet of line, 100 miles an hour, Jamie, go! Well, that is certainly as good as it gets. Plate's still rolling. They faked it! Totally faked it!
They almost pulled that one off. But even a perfect run at 100 miles per hour still wasn't enough to leave the table intact.
That's not bad. Not bad at all. Everything slid, especially on the front half. We lost a few place settings. Most everything is still standing, but honestly, you know what I'm thinking?
What?
They faked it.
Yeah, they faked it. It's busted.
Yeah, totally busted.
Busted. But on MythBusters, that can only mean one thing.
That run wasn't half bad. In fact, it was pretty darn good, but it wasn't what we saw in the clip. So that's what we got to do next. We're going to have to fake it.
They're gonna fry my brain.
The MythBusters have been picking Tori's brain to find out just what it can do. And now the results are in.
So Leighton, from the results that you were looking at, overall total percentage, how much was Tori using at resting point?
So when we're looking at the brain at rest, if we look at 3 major networks in the brain, the visual network, the auditory network, the sensory motor network, if you put those 3 networks together, even at rest when he's not doing anything at all, that accounts for about 15% of total brain activity. You can kind of think of it as an engine in a car idling. You know, when the car engine is idling, you know, as soon as you press the gas to go or when you do a task, that's when brain activity gets greater. But at rest, even when he's doing nothing at all, about 15% of the brain in these three networks are working together.
The scans for Tori at rest clearly show that even though his body is inactive, his brain certainly isn't.
All right, so this is the test where I'm trying to recall a story and try to use as many lobes as possible. What did I come up with?
When you're telling the story, we see activity in the frontal lobe, in the temporal lobe, in the visual lobe, and also in the limbic lobe as you're experiencing the emotional content of the story. And there, across the brain, we see about 30% of the total brain volume active.
That's the most brain power for any individual test across all the different scans. With all of Tori's lobes engaged, his brain maxed out at a huge 30%.
So in order to get to the very core of the problem, and in fact the core of the brain, the cerebellum, we used fMRI technology. And we got some very interesting results. Even at zero activity, which was no stimulus, eyes closed, no movement, Tori had more than 10% brain activity. So what's the bottom line? Well, even with all of our tests, EEG, MEG, fMRI, you're definitely using more than 10% of your brain.
It's obvious that even at 100 miles per hour, this trick can't be done without devious deception. So it's back to where it all began, Fort Mason, for some tablecloth trickery.
So how do we fake this? Well, if the opening titles are correct, Jamie and I have a lot of special effects experience, and it's true, we actually have an idea for how to fake this. It looks a little something like this. What's different about this setup than its predecessor? Actually, quite a lot. I started out by treating the entire tablecloth with a dry lubricant made for sailboat sails, and that should actually reduce its coefficient of friction. But most importantly, I then laid down on top of the tablecloth a sheet of plastic, 24 feet long, and mounted at the non-motorcycle end of the table. And then we set the table as normal. What this means is that between all the place settings on the tablecloth is a thin membrane on which everything sits. So the tablecloth should, in theory, slip out easy as you please without disturbing anything on the table. That's how I think they did it. Boy, I hope this works.
It'll work.
That's it. Let's try it. This is tablecloth pull, the cheat. 3, 2, 1, go!
This is it. Will they finally be able to pull a fast one and make the tablecloth disappear?
And that's how it's done. Congratulations, we did it.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, we disturbed one fork and that was it.
I'll settle for that.
So will I.
Just like the Hollywood saying, you have to fake it till you make it. And that's mission accomplished.
Well, we replicated the results. Where does that leave the story, the myth?
There's no way they could have done this without faking it. It's busted.
I totally agree. It's busted. Let's get out of here.